Save the best for last. Sit down, don't leave. First of all, at the end of the day, I think it's important to give a big shout out to everyone at FounderMade for putting together fantastic panels. It's been a great day of content, so big cheers to all of them. I'm going to do some introductions here just very quickly, and thank you, Alana. My name is Michael Benjamin. We've all met now, so you can call me Benji like everybody else does. I am a parasitic attorney. I work predominantly in the consumer retail space. I'm at a firm called Latham and Watkins, so I spend a lot of time with entrepreneurs, with investors, with companies, and with other financing sources across the entire spectrum of consumer retail businesses. We have an awesome panel here. I think we're going to call it, which we call it In Sync. Is that?
Yeah.
Actually, JT's had some bad PR the last day or two. Maybe we should go with another one.
Lead singer for sure.
I try. I just need the hair. I need the matching hair.
There's a reason I'm wearing a hat. So let me do some introductions here. To my left is Carter Reum. He's the co-founder and managing partner of M13, which he and his brother Courtney founded in 2016. They've now got over $1 billion in AUM. M13 has seeded a number of unicorns, including Cabify, Q, Daily Harvest, one of my favorites, Matterport, Ring, Rothy's, and Transfix. Carter began his career on the dark side at Goldman Sachs, and he and his brother started Vive Spirits, which is a vodka alternative and one of the fastest growing independent brands in the country. He's been honored in Goldman Sachs Builders and Innovators 100, most intriguing entrepreneurs in the country. Thank you for joining us. Next is Erik Huberman. Erik is the founder and CEO of Hawke Media, a highly successful marketing agency known as your outsourced CMO. The company is now worth in excess of $150 million. He's also a well-known writer and thought leader in the marketing and e-commerce space. What? Miles Teller. Okay, I like that.
Apparently I look like Miles Teller.
This is going to be a doppelganger panel. I'm going to get through the rest of these bios. His work has been featured in magazines like Rolling Stone, Forbes, BI, Entrepreneur Inc., as well as on his own company's Insights blog. Erik's received a number of fantastic industry honors, Forbes 30 Under 30, CSQ's 40 Under 40, and Business Inc.'s magazine's top 25 marketing influencers. The next to his left, and thank you for joining us today, by the way, Erik, Shaun Neff. Shaun is a local. He is legit Southern California, born and raised. He's built and sold several consumer companies, including Neff Headwear and Sunbum. Shaun is the co-founder of Beach House Group, a leading innovative brand incubator that has created and launched notable brands with high-profile collaborations, including Moon Oral Care with Kendall Jenner and Odell Beckham Jr., patent by Tracy Ellis Ross. How do I say, is it BEIS or? Base. Base for your face, by Shay Mitchell, and incubated and sold Florence by Mills with Millie Bobby Brown. Thank you for joining us today. And last but not least, Mr. Patrick Schwarzenegger. Say hi, Patrick, while I turn to your bio. He's an investor and the CEO of a company called MOSH, which is a brain nutrition and wellness brand. Patrick got an early start on his entrepreneurial path by investing in and franchising a number of Blaze Pizza franchises. I'm sure some of you had that. And one of them actually opened on campus when you were at USC. Is that right?
Yeah, I did.
So the internet's accurate. It's the first time for everything.
A while ago.
Patrick branched out then, investing in young entrepreneurs who were creating companies to meet the demand for healthier food and beverages. Some of his more prominent investments include Liquid IV, Super Coffee, vegan chicken company Nugs, and healthy fast food chain Every Table, along with Poppy, Verb Energy, Mudwater, and Whoop. So, thanks for joining the FounderMade panel today. This is a fantastic and talented group of people who have each built their own empires, and that's what we're here to talk about today, is empire building. And I love that you've all done it in a different way, but there are some great commonalities here. The first, I got a number of topics that I want to sort of cover. The first one is money, and not in the sense of how does a business make money, but we're in a really challenging fundraising environment, and along this panel there's people who've both been operators and investors, and so you see with 360-degree visibility what's going on. What's the real difference between now and 2-3 years ago, and what are investors really looking for when someone comes to pitch an idea?
I'll start and then throw it down, but I think, like I always remind people, today is not the anomaly. The last few years were the anomaly, right? And so I would argue that the margin of error today is the same margin of error as in the past. It's just tight, right? And so I think even for the best entrepreneurs, no one's guaranteed their next funding round. So what does that mean? To me, if you look at all these great companies we have today, Pinterest, Uber, so many others, they all came out of 2008, 2009, 2010, right? Because necessity is the mother of all innovation. What they all came out of the gates with was focus, right? Because they had to be focused, because they had limited capital, right? And so I would argue that, what entrepreneurs need to do is focus. Right, mediocrity will not be rewarded, so you have to do something great, right? What's that one stat in the deck that shows, hey, this is our reason for believing, right? Our LTV to CAC is X, or look at how much consumers love our product. Imagine if I had more money to put more into marketing, right? And so what we always talk about is, we're a core Series A investor. We tell companies, make your deck of what needs to be true for your Series B, and then work backwards from it. What are the stats that people are going to expect based on your peers? And to me, again, the companies that raise have one or two things that they show that are scalable. The companies that fail to raise they don't have that focus, and they might have a bunch of mediocre stats, and investors aren't willing to make the leap of faith that they can figure it out in the future, if that makes sense.
Yeah, agree with all the above. And then I also think that we're in a time which, as you said, the other time was the anomaly where you could raise, not run a profitable business, have no unit economics and just growth at all costs. Now you have to be able to survive, which is, again, traditionally what you have to do in a business is actually be able to make money. And so having unit economics, having a path to profitability, not meaning you always have to be there, because if you can raise money, go spend more money than you're making to grow. But you have to be able to show that, and you have to be able to adjust quickly just in case this funding environment continues, and it continues to be hard.
Yeah, echo. There was already a lot dropped there. So, look, I think in today's era, the days of hype and non-profitable growth and, the pie in the sky metrics that don't pencil out and allow you to drive a meaningful business that's creating profitable growth. I think that's the biggest difference today, right? You still need all the bells and the whistles, the product expansion, how are you going to scale it, how are you going to take it global, how are you going to really build this into a long-term brand, right, that has long-term value. But at least today, I think the biggest difference is you got to show a profit. You got to be smart, which is kind of weird, right? Because there's general business, it's like, even when you're an 8-year-old, it's like, mom says, hey, you want to do a lemonade stand? Make the lemonade, here's what it cost.
That's how I learned.
Right?
Yeah.
Sell it for $2 because it costs 50 cents and you're going to make money. So I think it's just bringing us back to business 101 of gosh, it's crazy how even these big tech companies that bleed cash every day with this crazy idea, it's cool. But how sustainable is it? It's just wealthy people funding crazy ideas that are not profitable. So who knows?
Patrick, one thing that might be fun to talk about just as an investor in MOSH and as a company doing tremendous growth, I think, right, your experience, I imagine from reading the investor updates, is that it's not a miracle. It's brick by brick by brick, retailer by retailer. But obviously you're building an incredible business with a lot of growth. And sometimes people can look at that and go, holy shit, that's awesome. They don't realize that, it was just that steady growth along the way. But any experience in terms of being more on the entrepreneurial side?
Yeah, I'm not an expertise in the tech space by any means. I focus 99% of my investments in the companies in our portfolio are in the kind of CPG space. So when I started investing 10 years ago to today, I think you're correct, right? The last few years were the anomaly, but I think one of the main things that's really shifted is the amount of competition. When I started investing 10 years ago, and the first company I went into, a company called Blaze Pizza, they just were saying, let's do pizza like Chipotle did for Mexican food. or let's do pizza like Subway did. There was nothing else really out there. And then same with Liquid IV, was just like, let's be the low sugar Gatorade, and Poppy, the low sugar, or Olipop, the low sugar soda, so on and so forth. But I think one of the things that happened during the pandemic, which is an amazing thing, was a lot of people realized that in America, the beautiful thing is that anyone can go out and start a company, right? You have the freedom of doing that. And a lot of successful companies were born during that time. A lot of companies received a lot of capital during that time. But we've seen a lot more competition. There are a lot of people that are disrupting every single category that 10, 20 years ago didn't seem feasible, from hatware to drinks to food, etc. So, and I think the main other thing was during the pandemic, a lot of people looked for overnight success. A lot of people wanted to raise as much capital because of the interest rates and the low interest and the amount of free cash flow going throughout our economy. Was how can we pull as much money in, acquire as many users, not worry about the bottom line, right? Not worry about the profit, just worry about getting the customers in the door. And hopefully one other day we can sell this and the big conglomerate can worry about how to make it profitable. And that's no longer the case. You know, you have to have a clear vision and path to how do you make it profitable so that the company acquiring it can turn it that way. So I think those are kind of, from a tech side, they can talk more about it, but from the consumer side, it's really been I really see the amount of competition.
Lots of you, as I mentioned before, have worn both hats as an investor and an operator. Which one do you like more? What's your first love? If you were going to build an empire today from scratch, would you want to do it as one or the other, and why?
I'll start because I've been an investor for 10 plus years, and it's amazing. It's like being an uncle. You get to get your nephew or your niece during the good times, and then when they need to go take the nap or they get cranky, you're away from them. But there's nothing more rewarding than being a founder so far. I mean, I've been working, we started our company in a very unique way. I was living with my mom during COVID, and we decided to start it out of our kitchen in a very small and fun way, just seeing what would come of it. But man, it is a roller coaster. I remember during COVID when we sold way more product than we thought, and we had our wrappers and ingredients stuck at the port for 10, 12 weeks that we couldn't, and having to communicate with all of your customers that were expecting purchases, and what happened during the summer months when our fucking chocolate was melted and people were complaining, and the co-man running out of this. It never ends. I mean, it really never ends with the issues that you run through with as a founder. But there's nothing that's been more rewarding than building this company, brick by brick, making your investors happy, or hopefully one day happier, and just watching something actually grow in front of you. If you're a type of person that really loves to watch something physically and tangibly grow, running and creating a business is very fulfilling.
I love that analogy. I waited a long time before I found someone who had just the right level of poor judgment to marry me and have children. So I was an uncle for a lot longer, been an uncle a lot longer than I've been a parent, and I think it's a very powerful analogy. What about the rest of you, Shaun?
Yeah, so I started for sure as a founder, right? Freshman in college, put my last name on some t-shirts, and that was the first business. And it was funny, throughout that journey, I kind of became an investor, but it was always with a purpose, right? Like, I was one of Robin Hood's first advisors. So it's like, I put in money, but then I got stuff for being an advisor. Or Sunbum, right? I was already kind of had the Neff distribution, Surfskate Snow, kind of knew that market. Was lucky to get a random phone call from a college buddy who had a Neff sticker on his truck, and the Sunbum guy walked by and was like, "You know that guy?" And at the time, Sunbum was very small, and by the time I wrote my check, I became the second largest shareholder. They had probably 2 weeks left of cash in that business.
How'd you keep your hands off operating? Were you able to do it? Were you able to resist getting in there and saying, no.
Yeah.
You should do it.
Well, and the key on Sunbum, right? Like, so when I came in, it needed capital. I provided capital. They came to me based on my knowledge in the whole Surfskate Snow industry, and getting rooted core there and being authentic, and then it obviously scaled. And at the time, I was on Target's payroll helping them redo their kids' business, so it was a good time to walk Sunbum into Target, right? Which ended up being our biggest retailer when we sold S.C. Johnson. But no, I wasn't too worried because we hired at the same time I came in, right? Product's king, no matter what you do. Product needs to be phenomenal, but the operating team is just as important, right? There's plenty of great products with poor execution and operational excellence. So that was easy because you wrote the check. You were able to do. I was able to do my little things. I don't take the credit for Sunbum's success. We had a great operating team, and then obviously now building all these brands. I mean, that's what I love. I remember when I sold Neff, I was like, oh, sweet, I got an exit, and everyone I know that has made a little bit of money, they start investing. So funny. I was so excited. I was talking to all these founders. I think I wrote like 15 checks. And even I was talking to my accountant, and I can't even remember half of the companies I invested in. I'm like, it was just kind of like, unless I'm involved.
The K1s come around.
Yeah, it's like, unless I'm involved, it's just non-meaningful. So if I'm an investor, I'm very active and hands-on.
Yeah, I think the uncle metaphor is perfect. I think that is exactly what it's like. I mean, I heard Alexis Ohanian say on stage at Upfront Summit this year was perfect. He looks in the crowd and goes, it's a venture summit. Who here is a VC? And they all raise their hand. And he goes, yeah, you guys have a fucking easy job. Like, it's just... And having both,
right?
So we have a venture fund, we have our operating business that I've had for a decade, and I like the rewarding statement's true too. Like the wins you feel way more when you're operating, but I don't feel like there's a struggle on the investor side. There's disappointment, but there's no grind or struggle. And so they are very different things. I think everyone on stage here has been both, so you can have that juxtaposition, but investing is a nice thing to do, I think, when you've made some money or on the side while you're making money. If that was my entire career, it wouldn't be for me because I like that struggle. I like that grind. I like getting in the operational side.
I think everyone said it, but I've always said at M13 we invest in companies, we launch our own companies, and the insight we had was we're better investors because we're operators, and better operators because we're investors, because you get different insights. I think it's one of the reasons I love watching Patrick build his business with his mom is, and to be fair, I should apologize, I'm not supposed to be in this chair. My wife was supposed to be in this chair, and something happened to her scheduling-wise, so that's why they got another guy that looks like these guys to sit in this chair. But my experience with my wife has been, I'm nothing more than a supportive husband, but my wife has probably now $1 billion media company she's built over the last few years. And so for me, it's so much fun as part of our love story as nothing more than a supportive husband to help her start a company and grow. And so, tonight when we go home and take a bath, she'll say, how was your day? She'll talk business, we'll kiss, we'll cuddle. And that's kind of fun that's kind of interwoven in our love story.
Probably shouldn't invite myself over if that's the case. So
it's a pretty small bathtub. It only fits 2 people.
Anyhow, it's probably worth noting. One of the things I've seen, it's a good call out because you got a lot of alpha energy with the 5 of us here on stage. There's been so many fantastic female founders. Are you seeing good opportunities for women, supported opportunities for women to really get out there and whether it's on the investing side or on the operating side and seeing the support that they deserve?
Yeah, yesterday in New York City, we did something for New York Tech Week that was an event for underestimated founders. And my experience, even one of the things that drives me to help my wife is that people have underestimated her for so long. And so I think it's just so much fun in the world we're living. Like Patrick said, anyone can have a good idea. It doesn't matter where you live or what your background is. And we're living in a world where the best ideas, although we all have to be purposeful to make sure it's the case, get the funding and therefore get the opportunity to have success. But me personally, we have to be purposeful about it. We have to think about it. But man, there's some just incredible founders out there.
Do any of you sort of feel like we're at the point with underrepresented founders where for people like you deploying capital, it just it doesn't matter. Like you see past that. It's just irrelevant for you.
I think and I would believe, knowing these guys, they all see past it. I think as he said, you still have to be intentional about it, because as investors, we're still living in a little bit of a echo chamber where we're all sharing deals, we're all sending to each other, we're all seeing the same things. So you actually have to go seek it out still to give access to those people that may have that opportunity gap. But it is absolutely getting better. I also think that because there's been winners in different diverse backgrounds, that's encouraged a lot of other people to step into it. So I know what I'm seeing, we've been investing for 8 years, and so I've seen way and way more diversity in the kind of companies that are approaching us, which is great, because I don't think it matters. I think it's important to get from all angles, so to speak.
Yeah, look, it's been an amazing ride building Beach House, right? We're about 5 years in, and wow, like, not only our workforce, there's two right there, one's creative and talent, right? Both amazing females. And our business, right? Like our partners, our founders. Like Tracy Ellis Ross. We got connected with her through the old CEO of Ulta at the time. And Tracy had been on a 10-year journey trying to figure out how she can bring a product to market, right? For hair like hers. And I'll never forget, we sat down in front of Tracy, and generally, right, like I come in, I'm the brand guy, you talk about what you do, your infrastructure, how we're gonna scale, how we win. We sat down and Tracy talked for like 30 minutes. And wow, down to when I was young, I would call this phone number. This phone number would tell me the humidity of the day. That's how I would go prepare my hair for the next 30 minutes. And hearing her talk, the authenticity, the reason for being, and her finding a market that was a need for her own hair. So I can go forever how our Ulta huge launch to the chain at Ulta got pushed back a while because the team got, 150 shower clips of Tracy washing her hair, right? So I think, one, Shay Mitchell on bass and the functional product of what she does on our luggage. These founders are incredible. They're amazing humans. They're so great at what they do. So Beach House has been very fun to work with, just powerful, amazing women, and we're just lucky to be in business with them and provide infrastructure and capital and operational excellence, which is what we're great at, to their desires and dreams in a market. And it's been amazing. So on the female front at Beach House, our whole business has been built, with female founders, and it's scaling. It's a big company now. So
keep going.
We're after more amazing female founders every single day.
You're at the right place at FounderMade. Patrick, anything to add?
No, it's never crossed my mind if the founder is a male or a female or white or black or anything. I have a very simple thesis of how I invest, of why does it exist, who's running it, and what the product is. After it goes through the why it exists phase of who's running it, makes no difference to me. It makes a difference to me of how passionate they are and why they created it and what the mission is for them in their life, of why they're dedicating their life towards this company. What they look like, it makes no difference to me. In fact, when I invested in Super Coffee, for example, it was 3 college students that had never run a company. They were, but they were so adamant about this product and this mission that they were creating of low sugar coffee beverages and so on and so forth. And same thing with the company with MOSH. I didn't just partner up with my mom to say, let me help you. She was so determined to building a mission of educating consumers about what they eat impacts their brain health. She lives and breathes everything about educating people about Alzheimer's since her father passed away from Alzheimer's. And in the end of the day, women are 2/3 of the purchasers. They have the purchase power. So why would I not want to go and support
all the money, right?
A female founder that is speaking to the audience of people that are most likely purchasing the product? for themselves, for their husband, for the households, or for whatever that is. So, yeah, I mean, look, we've made monstrous steps as a society. Retailers have made monumental steps towards incorporating that. There are now, you can get the women-owned seal if you have 51% or founded by. There are certain trade programs and different shelving.
Because consumers want to know, right? They want to know where their products are coming from and what the values
So
of the
there are seals of approval or something to showcase that there is whether it's a diversity-backed or women-backed or female-founded or something of that nature that you didn't used to see. So I for me, it's never been something, but I understand it is a global.
So that's a great segue, because I want to talk about brand. And if you've had a chance to look around the room today, which I suspect most people here have, there are so many brands. Beauty, food, wellness, tech. There are so many brands, and tech touches everything now. We also live in a society where everything is always competing for our attention, right? We're usually a device, but also people. How do you think about it? What advice would you give people starting a business and want to build an empire? How do you think about brand, establishing, finding your consumer, establishing that relationship, and maintaining an engagement and mind share when there is so much to distract them?
Yeah, there's no way to beat around the bush of it's hard. There are a lot of products out there, plain and simple. For me, it's geared more towards, like I said, 10 years ago, being the healthier pizza or being the healthier soda or whatever. That was enough to get you to become a 100 million plus revenue company. I mean, you could really revolutionize a specific category. Majority of categories have been revolutionized in the CPG, better for you health and wellness, food and beverage space. That's where I focus. But niche is really where I like to go. I mean, 99.999% of people that we talked to about MOSH had absolutely no interest in investing or helping because it was another bar, which makes sense on the outside. It really is. I mean, that's the worst category to go to. I don't know why we did it. Terrible choice. It is so saturated. You go to the Whole Foods shelf, there's 30 options. It's terrible. Margins suck, all of this stuff. However, my mom
put that in the deck, by the way.
But it's true, and any investor knows that. And I have two investors right here.
Investor, yeah.
Yeah.
Why'd you guys invest?
Yeah, but it's very niche. It's very focused on. We're not going to go towards all of our marketing, all of our messaging. Everything is not towards that. It's towards brain and body health. And everything we do, why we exist, our founder story going to be front of mind. The ingredient story is going to be front of mind. And that's what we're not going to go against Quest. We're not going to go against one. We're just going to go towards brain health. And hopefully we can build this brain brand and this whole platform so that we can build other products underneath it that speak only to brain health. It's not the sexiest thing. We're 80% of our consumers are between 45 to 65-year-old females. So, my friends, you go to these certain stores, people aren't getting it, but we have a very hardcore consumer in the niche space that we're going after. And so that's one of the things that I look for today is, do you really know what type of a consumer are you going after? Because going just towards a general audience in a general category is way harder today, and it costs way more capital to go and make an impression in today's world than it did before.
I agree with that, and then I'll throw it to Erik. But I always talk with companies. I've been lucky enough to be the first investor in $7 billion plus companies, and the one thing they all shared similarly was their obsession with finding their first 2,000 customers, right? So I always say, find the first 2,000 customers. The best companies, when they're getting to that 2,000 customers, they put a premium on learning over hitting sales numbers, right? They obsess with learning. And if you do that, rather than linear growth, eventually you get to exponential growth. If you can find, to Patrick's point, 2,000 customers that if you took your brand away would be really upset, and you understand why they would be really upset, in a world of technology, which I live in today, you can find 10,000, 1 million, 50 million, 200 million. You can find more of that. I think too many brands go out and don't understand who loves their brand and why they love their brand. And so they're kind of like, I kind of like that brand, but kind of liking that brand in a world, like Patrick said, of increased competition is very difficult because, where there's so many brands. And so to me, it's always about obsessing about those first 2,000 customers, learning. And if you can do that, you can get the capital to most likely scale.
Yeah, and Patrick said this best. I think it's about why do you exist? I think there's a huge portion of entrepreneurs that start a company for the sake of starting a company, not because anyone actually needed what they're building. And you have to figure out, is there someone else already doing this? Is this problem already solved? Then why are you doing it? What is missing? And that could literally be a water for a different audience. You look at Liquid Death, that was for the person that's no longer drinking beer and wanted to hold a tall boy and be at a music festival. And now you've got this giant, fast-growing beverage company. So there are really specific niches that can be massive opportunities. But if you're building something for the sake of building something, you're going to have trouble. And then once you figure out that why do you exist, creating a statement that's 5 to 7 words that articulates that, so when you talk about it, people can digest that quickly. This is why this exists, this is who we are. Not because it's hard for you to find time to explain this to other people, but you need them to go tell other people. Word of mouth is still the biggest driver of business, and if you can't help your audience, your 2,000 first customers, tell their friends, then you're going to struggle the entire time.
I want to pick up on that before Shaun gets in the mix here. I'm trying to think, I must have taken 20 consumer retail companies public. And you sit with a management team that's getting ready for that, and all they want to talk about is social. This many views, this many images, this many hits, these brand ambassadors. I've always felt just this level of suspicion around the revenue link, the strength of conversion strength from social and viral exposure to actual revenue. But you're all much closer to the front line. As we talk about brand equity, I'd love to hear what you all think about that, because it's quite, you're the marketing guy, right, Erik? So you're the one sitting here with this room, these great brands, right? And all their paraphernalia, and saying word of mouth still rules, which is fascinating to me.
Well, and let me explain. So with social, and we manage about $500 million on social a year, it drives an initial customer, that first person you reach. But if you can't then have that customer go tell other people about it, you can't afford to buy all your customers. So that's that K factor, that viral coefficient, where businesses are actually successful. If you can't get a customer to go tell their friends, you are not going to be successful in almost any business.
And to your point of what's different today than in the past is in 2000 when I seeded Rothy's or Daily Harvest, all these great brands, you actually could just buy all your consumers, right? The Facebook tax wasn't that great.
It's a performance marketing, right?
Necessity is that I have to pay to get Shaun to be my friend. But once he's my friend, then if he tells 5 other people, it's just the math of it all.
Anyone here like to be Carter's friend? Hands?
Yeah, I'll take it. Thank
there
you.
We go.
Yes.
There we go.
Still got it.
Party at your place tonight.
Still got it.
Shaun, I definitely want to hear what you have to say on this.
Yeah, look, and it's pretty loaded. So to any founder, anyone's looking to start anything, even me, started a bunch of businesses. I never thought about fundraising. I never thought about, what can I do to get... Because I think there's this fake reality of okay, I'm not going to make it unless I get some big funding. But in the reality, right, product is everything, right? And to me, building a brand is storytelling. That's how I think of brands. It's storytelling. And that's it, right? Patrick said, sure, if his idea was, I'm going to make a bar, he wouldn't have got funded. But he said, hey, I've got a company targeting the brain and brain health, right? And the form factor is a bar, right? So that's why he's having success. So he's obviously telling a completely different story than all these other competitors, right? So if you're starting a company, you gotta have good, efficacious product, no matter what. It's gotta be great, right? Because anyone can get a sample, or there's tricks online to get people to consume that first product, but in the end, it only becomes a customer that second, third, fourth, fifth time, right? So product is the hero, and then I'm just a sucker for storytelling, packaging, point of difference. Like when I came across Sunbum, did the world need more sunscreen? No. But I was it was simple. I was Is there a brand today that I would put a sticker on my car or my surfboard? Coppertone, Neutrogena, Banana, no. So to me, there wasn't a killer brand in sunscreen, right? So Pattern, Kim right there did the packaging on Pattern. It's phenomenal, right? It's beautiful, it's stunning. Like, you don't even have to, you can walk into Ulta, Sephora today and not pretend you didn't see anything, and you just see that packaging, it drives you in, right? So like, I think it's storytelling has to be real, has to be authentic, the packaging, because you got to realize everyone has filled shelves right now. No, I'm sure all the founders out there, no one's calling you saying, hey, I was thinking about needing some space filled in my store. I've never got that call, right? So you have to look at what's on the shelf. How are you different? Is it packaging? Is it a story? Whatever it is, and then own that. And it's tough to do, and it's a hustle. Doesn't need to happen overnight. Doesn't need to start big. Like, my first company went from one t-shirt selling out of my backpack. Then I sold 3. Then I sold 7. And a year and a half later, I sold a couple thousand t-shirts, right?
How many millions did you raise for that company?
None. Yeah, right? So, and we didn't even raise money ever, and I sold it.
I want to stay with authenticity for a minute, and with you, if I can, Shaun, to kick this discussion off. You've had a lot of success using collaborations and brand ambassadors. How do you balance preserving authenticity and using people that are really high profile, that are out there a lot with a lot of different brands? Is there a tipping point past which you might lose that authenticity? People say, well, they just paid this person to jump on board with this.
Yes, case in point at Beach House, in 5 years, we've met with 250 talent, from talent that has 280, 90 million followers on Instagram to 5 million, right? We've talked to them all, and we've done 4 deals.
There you go.
So, look, like for us, the thesis is you got to focus on one. Like, I'm not too interested in talent that have 3 brands, 5 brands, 6 brands.
Well, that's awkward. My wife has 19 brands, Shaun, but we'll talk about it afterwards.
I think there's only one Paris Hilton. So she jumps.
Maybe she is the brand, right?
She jumps that. Paris Hilton is the brand. But I think for majority, right, like, it's got to be real. It's got to come from heart. It's got to be intuition. It's got to be, right, because talent lately, it's like, I want a brand. I want to start a brand. But like, they need to realize that, like, hey, remember when you broke through as a musician or an artist or an actor? It wasn't easy. You didn't show up day one and,
So you got to tell them that. You got to tell them. You got to believe in this.
it's like, this is a business.
People will know
We're gonna have to work. We're gonna
it.
have to push. And the litmus test is, it only takes 1 or 2 meetings, and you know who's in it for the long haul and really wants this product to come to market, and they feel it, versus they want a paycheck. Here's the 2 days you can see me. Use my name and likeness. I'm out. I think people can sniff that.
That's not the Beach House way. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if you think about like celebrity or influencers, because everyone in this room thinks about influencers as a marketing channel. So the reason people use celebrity or influencers is because of the rising cost of a CPA. Sometimes it's more efficient distribution of that. But then I think to Shaun's point, for the brand of it all and the viral coefficient, it has to come down to the authenticity, right? Like, Patrick and his mom can blast something out to a lot of people, but the reason why people are going to buy the product over and over is the story and the brand and that type of thing. So I think you have to separate it also, right? There is a use case for micro or nano influencers because it's a CPA ARB, right? That is different, but that's a top of the funnel versus what Shaun does at Beach House Group, or Patrick and his mom is that reason for being much longer tail and much broader.
I've been on both sides of it. I've been on the side where we've built a company from the ground up with the celebrity and it's completely failed. And I've been on the side of it where we've sold one from, didn't raise $1 from pre-revenue till selling it for $300 million. The biggest difference was, did the celebrity align with the mission of the product versus getting just simply paid or being part of the company. And I'll give you 2 examples. When we started Blaze Pizza, we brought LeBron in. LeBron was super adamant about this pizza and wanted to make something that was under $10 and was just obsessed with the idea. His image, his likeness helped sell hundreds of franchises throughout America within the first year or 2. And it was huge. I mean, that company grew from 0 to 300 million plus and fastest growing fast casual restaurant in North America. And we later on, we sold it. My dad, Arnold, for people that can't put the 2 last names together, he's obviously had a very massive following in the fitness space. He grew a company called Muscle Farm, and they had their Schwarzenegger series product, 0 to 2 years doing about $100 million in revenue. The infrastructure of the company was a total disaster. That company went away. And I bring that story up because then he went and started a new company called Ladder. And Ladder Supplements and Fitness was, I want to be the higher end protein, and they brought in Cindy Crawford and Lindsey Vonn and him and LeBron, and it was this 4 star-studded team, all stars. I was like, this is going to be a home run. This is going to be massive. I'm going to make so much money, and it's going to be great. After 3 years, I mean, the company was dead. It completely went away. And I was so fascinated with it, and I did so many surveys and trying to understand to the consumer, and none of the consumers believed that Arnold Schwarzenegger and Cindy Crawford, it didn't align. You had 100 million, 200 million plus Instagram followers, all this star power, and the customer didn't believe it. And in the end of the day, if consumers are smart, we understand when something is authentic, a Kylie lip kit, it makes sense, but we also understand when it doesn't make sense. And we understand when it's just a pay for play or it's a real part of someone's mission and identity of why it all goes back to the why. Why are they creating the product? And so I don't know if people out there have brands and you're looking for a celebrity to just help you with your cost of acquisition for a customer or something like that. But the biggest learning I have is if it's not true to the identity of the brand and the mission of the brand and why it exists and goes hand in hand with their existence as a person and what they stand for, there's no point in doing it.
Yeah, I also think it's important to know that when we look at celebrities, so we look at marketing in kind of 3 pillars: awareness, nurturing, trust. So how do you get the word out there and get new people aware of what you are doing? How do you nurture that to get them to sale? And how do you build trust? Because people don't buy from companies they don't trust. I'd say celebrity in that partnership actually falls more in the trust category. The idea that you're going to get a celebrity and then you're going to open the doors and it's just going to go viral and you're going to make billions happens very rarely. What it does do is create credibility for the brand when it is authentic and aligned that allows you to then do all your other marketing and actually get a trigger on that, which is what Carter was saying as well. But thinking about it as we're just going to get a celebrity and then everything's going to be easy, that almost never happens.
Erik, I want to stay with you for a minute. We're sort of getting to the last 10 minutes or so here, and then I've got
it's fun. There's a plane overhead. Yeah.
No, it's great, right?
Where are we?
I thought that was the helicopter Paris sent to pick you up.
Exactly. Safety. Yeah,
Don't
she
be
wants
late
those cuddles.
Can't be late for bath time, right, Carter? I feel like one of the toughest C-suite roles in a brand-oriented company now, if not the toughest, is the CMO role. And that's where your company comes in, right? You're looking to fill that space. What do you really think are the key attributes for a great chief marketing officer in this environment?
Yeah, I would say, I think the problem, especially, so the average tenure of a CMO at a Fortune 500 is 18 months. And I think that has created 2 problems. One is CMOs are always looking to not get fired, and CMOs are always getting fired. So what ends up happening is it becomes a very insecure protectionist role. And where you succeed in marketing is understanding the basics, building a scalable, repeatable marketing strategy so the company can be predictable, because that's how a company can grow and thrive. If it's spiky and you're getting a random viral video and then nothing's happening, people focus a lot on that. You need that predictable and scalability, which I think is the first step, and a lot miss those basics. But once you have the basics covered, then it's about being creative, about taking risk, about standing out and combining those two so that when that random viral effort works, you have all the other things that benefit from it, and it creates a X factor on everything. But honestly, most of the time when we're looking at these companies, they're jumping on the newest hot marketing channel. Like, Snapchat just came out, let's do that. Or TikTok, which TikTok does work pretty well. But like what AR, VR, AI, whatever the new hype thing is what CMOs think they need to do, instead of actually building what's working, what's predictable. And on top of that, a lot of CMOs and a lot of marketing people talk about the sort of social conversation. They need to have, talk about the newest trend in woke culture. And like, while that has an importance, a lot of what we see is a lot of CMOs actually lose touch with like, you just need to sell a product too. And I've been seeing that actually more and more and more. And I'm not sure how long that trend lasts, but a lot of them have forgotten that like, no, but you still need to like remind people why they want to buy this product, not just put up a video about how you stand with, X diversity or something like that without any speaking to this. It was the Kendall Jenner Pepsi ad was a good example of that got a ton of backlash, where it was like, it's inauthentic. It seems performative. People don't buy into it, and that's happening a lot too.
I was just going to say, the success of a lot of companies in this room will be determined by marketing. And if I can leave you with one thing other than, boy, that guy loves cuddling with his wife, what I would leave you with is think about this construct, especially in an environment like this. I always tell every company, take 10% of your marketing budget and put it in a moonshot category, because right now you need to focus on growing your company so you get somebody to give you more money. But if you're not experimenting and trying to find those unlocks, you'll never get to where you need to go. And so what I mean by that is, it doesn't matter if you have $10 for marketing or $1 million or $10 million. Just say 10% of that is going to. And I tell people, have a separate meeting. You know that idea when in the normal marketing meeting when they're like, we should drive around LA in a pink food truck and hand out pots and pans. And everyone's like, that is fucking crazy. No way. In the moonshot meeting, they're like, holy shit, that is so cool. Will you tell me more? What's the pink food truck look like? Where are we handing it out? And so use a discipline like that, because it's like to figure out how to do the blocking and tackling marketing while making sure you have that experimentation, because that experimentation is what is going to give you the chance to create that viral coefficient down the line.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more on that one too.
Anything on that? Anything else, gents, before I move into, I think, the most important question around empire building? All right, so if you want to build an empire, you got to have a successful exit, at least one, if not more. As an advisor, when I get a call from a client or an introduction to a company or an investor, it's always because they're starting out, they want to raise money, they want to buy something, they want to sell something, or they're being sued. That's the worst call. I'm very conflict averse as a person. The best call is we're selling, right? Which is we're selling the whole thing, or we're going public, or some derivative of that. One of the things that I've realized is for a founder and or a senior management team, when that event comes around, they are almost universally not ready. It did not sync up with the way they looked at their own timeline, their own business plan, how they are resourcing their business. As you look at all your investments and or companies that you're operating, what do you prioritize? What do you have to get in place even well before an exit, and what are the other key ingredients for a successful exit? And when I say that, I don't mean a good business, I mean executing on the exit.
The first thing that I'll say is screw thinking about the exit. I know that's crazy, but do you guys, I wrote a book a few years ago about startups. Did you know that everyone in here has a better shot to get to the MBA than to be a unicorn tech entrepreneur? Just think about that. That's fucking crazy. Excuse my language. That's literally crazy, right? And I think there's so many great businesses out there. People obsessed with, we all see the person that ends up on the magazine cover or the list, and we think that's what success looks like. That is the 0.00001%. For every Kobe Bryant who skipped college to play in the NBA, do you know how many guys skipped college, went to the NBA, and were never heard from again? I bet you those guys wish they went to college, but we don't talk about those guys. We talk about Kobe, like, how cool is that? The guy skipped and is like, but that is literally like winning the Powerball, right? And so the first thing that I would say in this environment where it's capital constrained is not everything needs to be $1 billion outcome. Not everything needs to be $100 million outcome. By the way, what a cool business. You could start a brand, do $30 million of revenue and kick off $2 million a year. That's great. Literally, that's great. So I would just encourage, we've seen so many businesses collapse under the weight of unrealistic expectations. And so remember that exits or outcomes or what success looks like can mean a whole lot of different things to a whole lot of different people.
So broaden the lens, like really broaden the lens on what success looks like.
And honestly, that goes back to the problem with fundraising sometimes. And as investors up here, those investors expect a return. But bootstrapping, building a business that doesn't have debt, doesn't have outside capital, it's what we've done at Hawke Media. We just make our own decision. If at some point I want to sell, whatever the market will bear, that's what the price is. I'm not trying to get over a hurdle. The company won't fail because if things contract, we just have to contract. There's no hurdle to get over, and that's an important part. And then I think, like, back to the point of prepping for a sale, you have to understand. I think the best thing to do, if you do know you want to sell your business at some point, find out who the best banker is in the space. Go call them and say, what do I need to do? They're going to be happy to coach you all along the way because their hope is they're going to get a commission on selling you at some point. And honestly, those phone calls, I've talked to a few bankers regularly in our space. I've been doing this a decade, not because I'm planning on selling, but they also give you insight into what do people want to see that makes your business a good business. And it is such great insight of, like, here's what all your competitors are doing. This is the metric where you're missing. Like, they will do that all for free with the hopes of working with you. And that's been really valuable for us.
So leverage the ecosystem and also let go a little bit of the outcome.
Yes.
And I know it sounds a little packaged, but the journey is important. It really is.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been lucky enough to exit a handful of pretty good companies. And I think never, like, you don't start, like, the brand, the product, the idea, that has nothing to do with an exit, right? Like, you start something, it's gotta be passionate. You gotta feel it. You gotta bleed it. I'm all in. Like, as an entrepreneur, I always say it's dream, believe, and hustle. Like, you got to dream, you got to believe in yourself, you got to believe, and it's hustle for days because it's not easy. But having sold several companies, you got to be aware. The first thing I tell founders, what's the size of the prize? What's the market? What's the multiples? First company I sold was an apparel company. That trades on EBITDA, which is very different than top line revenue. You haven't seen me start 5 more apparel companies. Now I'm started 5 beauty companies. Beauty companies trade on 5 to 7 times revenue. So, like, you should never start something with the end goal of selling it, maybe. I mean, at Beach House, it's very calculated. We're an incubator. We're not here to run brands forever. We're here to find a market that needs to be served. We're here to tell an authentic story and make wonderful product. But our horizon as an incubator is pretty simple. Like, around 50 million in revenue, you become a shoppable business, right? There's appetite out there. You get a little bit bigger, like base right now we're gonna do 200 million this year in revenue at base. The buyers shrink at that size, right? There's not too many.
You got to go public.
And that's a discussion. But for us, right? Like, so now I'm very particular about what category we're in, what does the business trade at, what are the last 10 exits, right? Because, look, and I'm multi-psycho, starting businesses all the time, so I'm very different, but I think if this is your passion and your love, just do it. Don't worry about an exit, because you won't win and get an exit if you're trying to get an exit, right? It's got to be all in, do it because you love it. But my business is a little bit different now. We're an incubator. We're setting up companies to exit. So we're very calculated with who we think the buyers are, what the market is, what's the size, what we need to do. We got to make it profitable. We got to, there's a lot of things you got to do to sell a business. It's not easy, and you got to be calculated to get one sold.
It's really like the athlete metaphor, right? I mean, you got to grind. I always used to say this as someone who grew up in Australia and moved to New York, became a Yankee fan. Derek Jeter started taking ground balls in November for the following season. No one saw that. Patrick, do you want to bring us home on the exit question? Or it's all been said?
I have nothing to say towards an exit. I think that there's no advice I could give of don't think about an exit when you start. Think about an exit when you start. it's hard. I mean, if I were to try to give some sort of advice, I would say focus on your values. What do you really value in life? Because I have friends that make, a lot less money and are just as happy doing their job, or I know people that have created companies that profit a couple $100,000 in a year, and that's what they're building, and they're very happy. And I know brands that are only going for an exit, trying to build the top line revenue, and they're not making $1 in a year, but that's where they want to go. So I think it really comes down to defining what success is for you. And right now, for me, with MOSH, it's really just about making my mom's mission and her dreams come true. I haven't made $1 on the company, and I spend 100-hour plus weeks every week on it. And I'm not saying that's what you should do, because I'm in a different situation, but my point is it brings me personal joy to make her happy and to learn along the way. But I've never thought about when am I going to exit this company, but I do try to build a company that is financially viable for the future. But so I think everyone has different values in life and different things that they that are paramount to them, and different definitions of what success looks like. And I would utilize that as your North Star to then figure out where to go.
So that's a lot of fantastic and diverse perspectives on successful exit. This has been a fantastic panel. Reum, Erik Huberman, Shaun, Neff, Patrick Schwarzenegger, thank you for joining us, and thank you to FounderMade.